Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us once again this week for our public sessions for these meetings with the board candidates. Tonight, we are meeting with Dave Vetrovec, a current member at large, who has applied for the role of president. Um, just as a reminder how these have gone, how we're going to be doing it tonight. We are going to give control to Dave for the first little bit of the meeting. He can give any little speech or presentation that he would like to. And then we will reserve up to the next 30 minutes of the meeting for questions from the board, followed by up to the next 30 minutes for any questions from members in the chat. So with that, I will hand it off to Dave.
Good evening. As most of you should know, hopefully, my name is Dave Vetrovec, and I've had a long and storied history with Anime Twin Cities and Anime Detour. A little bit about myself. I'm 52. Last 20 years, I've been in financial services, and before that, I was the general manager of a movie theater. Kind of glad I'm out of that now. In with regards to Anime Twin Cities and Anime Detour, I started back in 2006, becoming the treasurer and the vice chair. And I was there until 2008, until I went a small beeline to Vermont. And when I came back, I was division head. And for the last 6 years, I've been head of programming. I explain this not to try to overwhelm you with, like saying why I should be, but just to show you that I have a background in how some things work. But I think I would like to take this moment to say that the president of Anime Twin Cities is not there to make the decisions. He's there, or she, sorry about that, he or she is there to build a consensus among on-board members, to lead the conversation, but not make all the decisions of the conversation, so that Anime Twin Cities can come to a complete and right direction. I think it's very important for someone to be able to build a consensus, to make sure things don't drag out, but also make sure that people are not ignored. I hope that my experience with working in corporate America, with running my own fiveplex in Delaware, and with running programming and being vice chair and so forth, can demonstrate that I have the ability to reach consensus. I am conservative by nature, meaning I like the way things were. Everybody, I've talked to most people and they know that about me, but I'd like to think that I've demonstrated over the last 15 years that I can be open to new ideas. Thank you for your time. I appreciate your questions.
Alrighty. Thank you very much for that, Dave. That was very enlightening. I will get us started off tonight with my first question, as it has been so far. If you are familiar with him, can you please describe for us the legal responsibilities of a board member?
A board member, there's many legal responsibilities depending on what company you have, but right here, a board member on Anime Twin Cities must make decisions with the idea of our 501c3 mission. The celebration and education of Japanese audio and visual culture, especially expressed in anime and manga, though we should also include Chinese and Korean manga, which I can't remember the word for. Hatura? Manhwa. Thank you. But okay, so maybe we need to go into Asian, but that kind of purpose. We're here as a board member to make sure things are done in a proper, correct method, in aligned with our status as a 501c3 nonprofit and a 317A state nonprofit. We are here to make good faith decisions for the betterment of our members because they give us money. And we are here to make sure that our mission is fulfilled by what we do and the programs we do. And the primary of that is Anime Detour.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Um, so my next question, do you feel that attending the board meetings is something that is an important thing to do for an applicant?
Absolutely. First of all, for an applicant who's never been on the board, yes, it is, because that's how you learn. I had never been on a board until I was on this board. Now, the beginning years of the board was a lot different because we were a lot smaller, but as it's grown, I realized the advantages of having a board and the pitfalls of having the board. There's always going to be politics, and we always try to rise above that. But knowing how things run, you can't an applicant to the board has to be at the meetings because they need to know what's going on. Well, not have to be, we'd like them to be at the meetings, or I'd like to be at the meetings, because they need to know what's going on, what things have been tried, what things are still issues, what hasn't worked, what has worked. And therefore, when someone is elected to the board, they can hit the ground and begin immediately. Now, there should be no requirements about how long you have, but I don't know about you, but I would not volunteer for something I didn't know what encompassed. And the only way you can know what's encompassed is if you show up to the board meetings.
I can definitely agree with that. Ashley?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but do you currently sit on the GPS board?
No, I am an officer of the GPS board. I am a non-voting member.
You are a non-voting member, and what do you do on the GPS board?
I am a treasurer.
Okay, and what does that include on there? Like, are you a contract signer? Can you execute contracts?
No, actually, the president has to sign contracts. I pay the bills, and I give advice and factual recommendations to the board.
Okay. And are you planning on remaining in that position over the course of the next 2 years?
Yes.
So, and this is just leading up to this, but do you foresee that causing any sort of issue between ATC and GPS, especially as we're like going to move into talking about our agreement with the office and all that other stuff?
Right. It is my responsibility to make sure no conflict of interest occurs there. That's why on this board member, which I'm allowed to do, will abstain from all votes regarding GPS. In fact, I try not to give not give my opinion, even though everybody should know what it is, but I don't give my opinion, and but I will answer facts if they have questions. If you remember correctly, during our discussions in November, when someone asked me for this information, if it came down to funding GPS as we do and losing Detour, I would not fund GPS. However, that's immaterial. I would not vote in any vote on GPS because a conflict of interest would impair my ability to build consensus in ATC.
So do you find it appropriate that the president of an organization recuses themselves of all talk regarding one of their partners? Because that sounds like what would have to happen.
Well, I did recuse myself when I was a standard board member. However, right. People ask questions and I will respond to their. Is it ideal? No, but.
The main concern being, and if I'm not being clear, the president is the one who executes the contracts and signs the contracts. So the president would be the one responsible. I did look at GPS's bylaws and they say you have to vacate your seat for the period of time too, if you are in some sort of conflict of interest. So I don't know how that translates over to GPS if they would ask you to not be treasurer at that point in time either.
That's that I believe I did check with our board, well, GPS's board, and since I was a non-voting member, they are saying that doesn't apply to me. However, if they have asked me to resign, if there is a conflict of interest, that would be a determination for the voters for here. And if for some reason GPS asked me not to be treasurer, I wouldn't be treasurer. Mm-hmm. I think I've missed. Did I answer? I think I skipped one of your question parts. Can you ask that?
I think it was is it appropriate, or do you find it appropriate that the president, who is the one who signs the contracts, would have to recuse themselves from those discussions?
But the president doesn't approve the contract. He only signs the contract. If I abstain from the vote and the board votes unanimously to disregard the contract or approve the contract, I'm not making the decision to sign, but I sign because I am the president. If you feel that is inappropriate, we can always have a special position open up, or a special authorization for someone else to sign it if you thought that was inappropriate.
And I'm just being a time hog right now, but
no, that's well.
I believe it was previously mentioned that while we were going into and talking about the agreement specifically for our partnership with GPS, we would be negotiating with you on the GPS side of the table. Does that mean we would have to, if you were president, you would fully recuse yourself on both sides, and we would just have to work with somebody else on the GPS side?
I believe it'd probably be necessary to find someone else to represent GPS on this matter. I wouldn't recuse myself in GPS because I'm not a voting member and have no say in the authorization of the contract. But I think it'd be appropriate for GPS to find someone else.
John, did you still have a question? I saw your hand up.
I did have a question, but it got asked already, so okay. I'm good for now.
Okay. Then I will actually roll on to my next question. Actually kind of pairing off of some of Ash's questions. Dave, I know you're at least somewhat familiar with the new revision of the bylaws. Can you give me an example of one that you approve, or one you think we would better change?
Well, I approve of okay. One of the things that you need to do as a leader and as a board member is understand what you know and understand what you don't know. The bylaws about quorum, which Ashley so nicely cleaned up, and I believe Hatora helped too. I don't know enough about that. I am glad that we can depend on Ashley and Hatora and you to peruse those laws, the 317A and 501c3 laws, so that you can bring that expertise to me. And so therefore I said, I don't know about this, but that sounds reasonable, so I vote for it. One of the bylaws I don't like, and I've never made a secret about liking them, is term limits. Term limits are good when it's in Congress, United States. Maybe term limits necessary to get different views in. However, the volunteer community and the people that are willing to be actual board members is a finite pool. And I think term limits, the idea of term limits lend itself to two things. One, qualified individuals leave because their terms are up and they can't apply anymore. Two, especially when you're only allowed 2 years or 4 years, people get the idea that you have to do something to make their mark, even if that thing is not necessarily what we need. And I'm not pointing at anyone here because this was not here. It was in previous boards. I find that term limits get this unnatural pressure. So people to do something, so that's what they do. And I just don't like the concept of term limits. If I do a good job, then I'll be returned to the position. The voters decide. If I don't do a good job, the voters will know, and I won't be returned to the position. But no artificial limit tells me I've got to go. Now, that could be unpopular, and I'm not going to make a big stink about it because of the term limits, because if people like it. But you asked what I didn't like about the charter, and that's it. Bylaws.
Thank you very much for that.
John, you're welcome.
So to caveat off that last question, with the exception of the term limits in our bylaws, what are some of the things that you would like to change?
What change in the bylaws?
Yes.
No, nothing. I don't think, except for the term limits. I'm pretty sure that right now we are in a good position. We don't need to change anything unless something obviously happens. Again, with the voting regulations that Troy and I got together with the board, I learned. I mean, we have a functional board. I don't see anything to change it. Right now, we're in a situation where we have to concentrate on making sure detour happens. And yeah, I've experienced the board. I don't have any really changes. I mean, I'm sure if there are something in the bylaws that the people who know more about the technical parts, the legal parts that need to be changed, that's fine. But I don't see anything right now.
Okay. What are some of the things that you like about our current bylaws?
I just thought of something I would change. But anyway, what I like about the current bylaws is that it's a good round number, and that we're taking constant strides to make sure that it's within legality. I don't, again, as I said, I'm a conservative person by nature. It's not that I fear change, I just don't make change for change's sake. So no, I think it's functional. We get a board, we show up. We're now videotaping it so everybody can see us. I'm perfectly fine with that. Yes.
Oh, were you saying yes or me?
Well, I didn't. I'm not know who I'm looking at. John was still not saying. Are you done? Because
You had just remembered something that you would change in our bylaws. What was that?
Okay, Kim, don't take this personally. I don't believe the treasurer should have a vote. Oh, you don't have a vote there. And the reason I explain it, not because I think Kim's doing a bad job. Please don't think that. The treasurer should have the ability to be a non-biased person who reports the facts, makes recommendations, and doesn't have to worry about political ideas about voting with this people or voting with this people. I just think it is better as a treasurer, which I've had experience both here and GPS, to not be a voting member. But then again, if we never change to take the treasurer off the vote, if the treasurer remains a vote, it's not something that's going to be, Zeus for the lightning bolt. It's just something I prefer. And you asked for something maybe I would change, so I thought of it, and that's why I said it.
Thank you.
Did you?
Yes. I had it worded perfectly in my mind, and now I'm not so sure.
We can wait.
So you had mentioned that you're more on the traditional side, that you're a little bit more right-wing when it comes to, a little bit more conservative.
Yes.
What can, as a president, let's just say you are president, what can I do, or how would I word it to you if I want something changed and I want you to see it as a good idea? Like what are the process? Like, do I have to make a PowerPoint, or do I have to
I prefer
bake cookies?
No. Because one, I don't need the cookies. But two, I like to think, okay, and this is a matter of opinion, that I'm approachable. I prefer one-on-one conversations. PowerPoint's there. PowerPoint. I can watch PowerPoints and do it at my job all the time. I can understand them. I prefer person-to-person exchanges, and really not text. But I learned to text. Thank you. I like to think, yes, I'm a conservative person in the sense that I don't see the need to change. I am a Republican. I didn't vote for Trump. I didn't vote for Trump. Sorry, I should be not humorous in this thing, but I like to think that I'm open enough to say, okay, let's hear your idea. I mean, there's examples from programming. I didn't really want to take the resources to make a children's room. I didn't want the children's room. I wanted that new room to be put more great panels in that room. And Troy and Mike came to me and said, yes, but there's people who have kids and we're skewing older. And they came to me, and even though I didn't want it, I said, okay. And we were going to have a children's room, and then COVID happened. Same thing with my own department can tell you. I don't like truth or dare panels. I think they're egotistical. I think they're ill run. I think it's people up there just saying, look at me, look at me. And as JC pointed out, look at the numbers. Look how popular they are. So now we have truth or dare panels. I don't like them, but I was convinced to have them and the children's room and the more the adult shows, because it's not about what I want. It's about what the convention needs and what the consensus wants. I hope I answered that question.
I think so. Definitely. Thank you. So you're open to change as long as it's one-on-one and it's convincing.
No. Well, isn't everybody only going to change if they're convinced? I mean, if you come to me and say, Dave, we want to paint that wall blue. And that's minor. I'm just making an example. You want to paint that wall blue, and I don't care. There's no reason for me to tell you no. There's no look. I've got the reputation for orneriness, but the true height of orneriness is to oppose you, and I don't have a reason to oppose you. If that's not going to cost us anything, and that wall will some people think that's a good idea to have that blue, then it's irresponsible for me to block that. Or if something I don't like and someone comes to me and says, this is what we need to do, and I say, I don't think so. I'm not shy of saying that, but I like to think that eventually either they'll convince me or possibly, I expect occasionally sometimes the votes to be 6 versus 1, and I'm the only one voting against. And if I get voted out because there's 6 people want it and I don't want it, I'm going to execute it, because that's what you do on the board. We have a board so that's not one person's vision. It's the corporation's, the board's vision.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know if follow up, and I don't know where to put my eyes. So, I keep pointing at this person and he's over there. So sorry about that. Troy?
Yeah, sort of a, just a standard question. But if you can just sort of give your opinion of not necessarily the president, but as a member of the board of directors, explain the relationship between the board, the ATC board, and its branch coordinator. Sort of what controls does ATC hold over its coordinators and the branches?
Okay. It's kind of a setup, because I've always been in the opinion that the person, one of the purpose of the board is to put the chairman of Detour in his position and then let him run it and support him or her or them any way they want to. Same thing with the coordinators. We review both the chairman of Anime Detour, community, social communications. I keep thinking C word, SOS. We review those coordinators and we give feedback. But I think it's inherent of the board that if we want to have people in those positions, like some of our other candidates said, why do we need to put people in positions? What we need to do is allow people the freedom to do what they want to do. You can't ask the pianist to come and commit a sonata and then hang over his shoulder and say, do that, do that, do that. Let the pianist play. Pianist. Anyway, so the position, what the board does is it reviews the coordinator positions, and if it's necessary and the board agrees to remove coordinators that need to be removed, and it's also necessary for board members to try to recruit when they find likely candidates. But that goes without saying, that happens everywhere. Right?
So,
Mm.
so I'm very sorry, but I have to exit this interview. Dave, I think you're doing a great job right now. I don't want you to think that I'm leaving because your interview sucks. I think you're doing really well. It's just I have to get going. I'll watch the rest of your interview tonight, and I'm actually looking forward to listening to the rest of your interview.
Thank you,
Peace out.
and
Have a good day, guys.
have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, who's next? Sorry, sorry. I have tree allergies. Apologies. People when I'm on motordatamine, so sorry about that. So what's next?
So going back to the relationship, detour, well, not just detour, but ATC and its coordinators. What do you think we could do to kind of help diversify our offerings as an organization?
Well, okay, this comes up to what priorities for our organization. And I got a little speech on that. Priorities of Anime Twin Cities is number 1, Anime Detour. Number 2, Anime Detour. Number 3, a set of steak knives. Number 4, charities. And number 5 is everyone else. Not because SOS isn't a wonderful program, but because Anime Twin Cities was created because Anime Detour could not be a 501c3 without a board. Now, over the years, boards have said we could do this and we can do that, and we have done wonderful work with Awesome. I've been to several Awesome things for charities. We've given a lot of money. We've helped other conventions with loans and equipment. Okay, we've created 2 funds, an education fund and a community fund. We've done a lot of different things, and that's great. But part of my conservatism is the number 1 priority is detour. Now, right now, we are in a financial situation because of COVID. And that was the questions I asked the other candidates. What's the reason? The reason we don't have the money to do the other things we want to do with Anime Twin Cities board is because of COVID. And because of the certain financial strain because COVID has put on us, we need to refocus on our core program, and that is Anime Detour. And once we're in a position to wisely and judiciously expand our stuff again, then we should do so. Because I know I made a Glengarry Glen Ross reference, but I don't mean to say that communities and clubs and that stuff is unimportant. It's just on the priority list. I don't know how we can do that right now. I hope to get to a position where we can have that discussion, that we can say, what do we want to do? And we want to make it sure defined. I think a lot of the other candidates said something about we want to fill the coordinator positions. And I know we have documents of what the coordinator should do, but I think again that people see a sheet, doesn't pierce. What the expectations of a coordinator we need to have is to explain them one-on-one. Any board member can do so. So I hope that answers your question. I did go off on a little tangent there.
No, absolutely. That actually gave me a couple ideas that I will reach out to you about later.
Sure.
Just to let you guys know, we're at about 4.5 minutes remaining on this section.
Okay. Now I'm actually going to roll into a little bit of a rougher subject for some people. In the last year, obviously, we've had a couple rough moments between some board members. How would you approach that situation?
I disagree whether we had rough members between board members. I believe that there has been positions where I have been pointing out that maybe I step on people's conversations, which is something I have to work on. I am never going to be a smooth, genial organizer. I'm me. And yes, you may not see me calm all the time, but you don't get calm, but you do get clarity and competence. What we need to do is politely inform people. Like sometimes I get excited. Just let me know that I'm stepping on people. I'd like to say I never do it again, but you know and I know that I will. And I almost just did because you were almost going to say something and I wanted to finish my sentence. But unfortunately for me, that's just my personality. I've attempted and I have gotten better. Some people have said so. But other than that, there's always going to be bad feelings. There's always going to be things that rub people the wrong way. You've known I've left the boards upset. You've also known that I begin every board meeting making my stupid kind of want to be a dad jokes. Because one thing I've learned in corporate America is you must choose your attitude. So the number one way to make sure that we alleviate more personality conflict is I have to be a leader by choosing my attitude to be positive and happy. Doesn't always work, but that's what you got to do.
True. Now, so that's so. I guess my phrasing was a little bit poor on that one because that actually is not exactly what I was targeting. I was thinking. I was actually thinking back to not necessarily just this last year, in the last couple of years. We have had situations where some board members have felt that they needed to file a complaint or some sort of grievance regarding the actions of another board member.
Okay, I can't. Is this because
nothing to do with you? I was just.
Well, I know it's nothing to do with me, but I don't know how to answer that. If someone was inappropriately approaching them, then the board should, do something immediately about that. Suspend it till accusations. But if you're talking about someone who, let's say, there's a difference between feeling threatened and being uncomfortable. And I don't, without an example, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know the severity of the incidents you're talking about. If you're talking about someone making inappropriate advances, well, then we got to come down on that because we have a responsibility to do so, to lead and for society. If we have a problem where two board members really don't like each other and every time somebody says one thing and the other person spits back venom, well, then there's a lot of ways to change that. When you say file a grievance with us or with an outside party?
Within us.
Well, then somebody, and maybe not the president, but the president should take the lead, not do it themselves, then get someone who is most appropriate to mediate. Because the board that hates each other doesn't get anything done.
Very true. Thank you.
And I don't hate anyone here but Troy.
I know. I wasn't trying to pick any specific situation, but that your response did answer my question.
Can I follow up for a second? Because I know we're running out of time. But okay, so my follow up to that is, there shouldn't be a blanket statement on every situation because every situation is different. You really need to look at every situation. If somebody has a little contretemps, like when someone moved cosplay without forgetting to tell me, yeah, I got a little upset. And then 15 minutes later, it was over. It's done. People upset. We don't need to interfere with that. But if a continual personality clash happens, then we need to step in because it's preventing us from doing our mission. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And I think that about brings us to the end of the board portion of this. Thank you for the time for that, Dave. So, would you like to read chat, or would you like us to read any of the questions?
Well, okay. I would love to read chat, but is that it?
We don't have any questions yet. Ashley gave everybody a 5-minute warning.
I was just trying to figure out how to read. No, I'm not on that. There's no chats here. Okay, is it on YouTube?
Yes, sir. It's right on the Anime Twin Cities YouTube page.
Okay. Here's my weakness. In case you wanted to ask a flaw in my personality, if I don't fear change, but I do fear technology. So that's why I'm gonna bribe Drew all the time. So if someone wants to read the questions for me, that'd be probably good, because I'm thinking I'm not even on YouTube right now to read the chat.
Not a problem.
And the chat can, maybe I can find it, but maybe the chat can tell me if Aaron Rodgers has been traded yet.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, the draft's tonight. Draft's going on right now. But today, Aaron Rodgers said he wanted to be traded. So if anyone wants to tell me, I need to have a pleasant team, because go Vikes. Okay, where is it? Oh, there it is. There's the link.
Did you find it?
Yeah, I found it. But
Okay.
while we're waiting, the embarrassing thing, Ashley, you heard about this, right? On the online con, my first panel, I left Twitch open.
Oh, the audio. Yeah, the
Yeah,
audio.
and when I'm talking, I hear myself talk at the same time I'm hearing myself talk. And for the first 5 minutes, I'm going, "Hello, how are you? Hello, how are you? Hello, how?" It's like, don't do that. That hurts.
Audio loops.
Okay, I found chat. Doesn't look like anybody's in there.
Looks like
We
we
have
got
about
about
10 people watching. Nobody's
Yep.
typed in yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there
Oh,
are
there-
at least 4 people who are not us. At least.
Right. I'll just turn off right now. 4 people.
I don't know how many people have the YouTube open.
Well, I got the stream going, and it doesn't count me.
I swear it does sometimes when you do that.
Not when you're looking or watching from the studio.
I still think it counts you. Because I watch from the studio all the time. I do have a timer going as well.
Okay. Thank you.
So if we go too long without a question, we can wrap things up. So how's that open source music coming along, Tristan?
I had no time.
Mm-hmm.
I left the meeting last night, had to go back to my shop to get equipment, came home, went to bed, woke up at 5 o'clock, and went
We
to work.
have a question. What would you do as president to bring in new coordinators?
Okay, for new coordinators, this is kind of a difficult question. To identify coordinators, you can't just go out and Indeed or whatever the place is now, or LinkedIn. You need to identify people that would be good fits, and you need to convince them or recruit them. I convince recruit would be a better idea. However, I do want to be blunt and honest. We are not the only organization out there that's having problems finding people to volunteer. I mean, we don't even have a secretary candidate for secretary of the board right now. So the first step for people who want to be coordinators is to say, I'd like to be a coordinator. But we, as all board members, and of course I would have to take the lead because you lead by example, is to find people that want to take it over, or people who are unsure, and to coax them in to recruit them. Other than that, there's not really anything we can offer. We're 501c3. We can't offer income or bonuses unless we want to make Kim start doing W-2s. And I don't think Kim wants to do that. So, but also, I mean, yes, we need to recruit, but we also have to understand that people will need to want to do the work, especially coordinators. Coordinators do more work than we do. Okay, charities, community, SOS. I mean, Heather did a lot of work, and someone has to, want to and be available to do that work. I would prioritize communications, including social media, correct? I would prioritize, even above charities, finding a communications coordinator, because I don't understand the interweb, but we need to understand the interweb and internet. I knew how to say it, and I would prioritize that, then charities, then SOS, then communities. All the board members are also staff members, correct? That's not a requirement, but that's how it usually hangs out, right?
At the moment, yeah.
Okay. So again, if we're all staff members, we should take the next physical con 2022, be there, to see who's doing a great job. Go to ConCon. It's difficult for me because programming's always running around, locking doors and making counts. But I'm sure we can all find someone. And what's driving me crazy right now, I'm sorry, is Tristan's shirt, because he's got a roll there, so I can't read the whole of it. Oh, okay. Well, that explains a lot.
It's all those hidden laws.
We do have another question for online.
Oh, cool.
What do you believe is the driving factor in coordinators not staying long in their roles? And how would you change that to encourage people to remain?
Okay. I don't really have personal experience on that. When I was on the board previously, the coordinators all stayed. I'd have to look into why these coordinators left. I mean, I can't, does anyone here have any feedback on the board that knows why coordinators left their positions?
From the few I've talked to, it's overworked. For example, my understanding is this: the end of our the few at the time they were different things, especially our social media coordinators. The end of their terms was the start of mine. The explanation I was given is that it started out with small roles, and then it just kind of snowballed very much out of control.
Thank you, because I was around for the last one of that, and I should have remembered that. Somehow, social media and communications there. How would I prevent a social media coordinator or communications communicator from burning out? Okay. One of the frustrations was people who don't understand how important it is that when you post under Anime Detour and Anime Twin Cities, you speak for the entire event. And that because when you speak for that entire event by saying, I'm an official member of this, you are basically implying that your opinion is the opinion of the organization. And how many dumpster fires that Buttons had to put out because people didn't understand that. Now, I don't know how you can't, staff and members get to say what they want, but how do we keep Buttons from going, screw this, I'm out? You give her help. And now there's another issue. How do you give her help when you can't find other coordinators? Well, you prioritize communications, and you work with the communications coordinator and say, how many people you need help? What are your responsibilities for the people that work underneath you? When I'm still on the charities committee, not that there's much, but when it was being run, we had 4 people plus the coordinator. And I was I coordinated with Kim, and I kept the records. I kept the meetings and stuff. I didn't really do a lot of outdoor events. That's not my thing. I did some awesome, but I didn't do a lot because it's just not my thing. But I didn't need to because there were 3 other people taking up the slack. So You want a cheaper coordinator? We find a communications coordinator. We get that person a team, so it's not all on them. And because the coordinator for Anime Detour is Troy, when a staff member from Anime Detour does something that causes our communications coordinator to be all verklempt, we need to ask Troy and them to step in and make sure, in no uncertain terms, it's not tolerated. Because I can tell you one thing, one of the worst, in my opinion, and this is something I have to change, if we don't have an online presence, we're a dinosaur. And dinosaurs die out. I'm sorry, kind of there, but that's what I would do. We have to find each individual person who gets coordinator and make sure they have a staff. Now, finding people to be a staff, that's as difficult as finding coordinator, and I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but that's what we need to do to make sure they don't get overworked. And we need to support their policies unless they're irrational. Did I follow up the questions right?
Absolutely, from what I can see.
The Merlot comes later. My brother gave me a Merlot for Hanukkah, and I finally bought a corkscrew because I realized after he gave me these 3 wines, didn't have a corkscrew and I couldn't open it.
I've always been interested in trying to light the lighter on the neck bottle.
Yeah.
There's a trick. You just right around where the cork is, take a lighter and you run around the neck of the bottle, and that heating up the glass, it heats up the air between the liquid and the cork, and
it actually does work.
Thermal
I'm
expansion.
sure it does. I stopped having lighters around when I quit smoking in 2013.
Congratulations.
Too late. Three. 4 at-large members?
5.
President?
5. We
treasurer?
currently have 4 sitting. There's an open seat right now.
Yep. Yeah, they used to be Tony.
Yeah, because Tony resigned, but it was close enough to the election that it would take too long to fill the seat.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Okay. So.
We do have another question.
Okay.
If you take the role as president, would you feel that also being a department head could cause any kind of power struggle or friction any power struggle or friction with the detour chairman?
Well, even if I'm not president, there's struggle and friction between me and the detour chairman. But at the end of the day, he's the boss. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I would rather not be president if I wasn't going to be head of programming. Head of programming is my jam. Troy can testify at his quarter meeting or even now that when I will argue with him that I don't want something, and when he says, but you're going to do it anyway, I say, yes, sir, because he's the chairman. So am I going to argue with Troy? I can guarantee you yes. Am I going to disobey or petulantly not do what Troy tells me to? That won't happen. Arguing with Troy is one of the few joys of my existence. That's a joke. I have a lot of joy. It's still a joy of my existence. It's like cheesesteaks. I like it a lot, but it's probably not very good for me.
Oh God, cheesesteaks are delicious.
That's why when Jersey Mike's came here, I knew I was doomed. Because before, Minnesota didn't have good cheesesteaks, but Jersey Mike's showed up, and it's like, I'm back in Jersey. And Pillsbury Doughboy, too close to the stove, plumped when you cook them. Anyway.
Well, I like that review. Looks like I know where I'm going this weekend for lunch.
What? Jersey Mike's?
Yeah.
Have you been there before?
Nope.
What's wrong with you, man?
I didn't know it existed. Plus, I live in St. Cloud.
They don't have Jersey Mike's in St. Cloud?
Nope.
Get Mike's sauce on the side, otherwise your sandwich will be as sloppy as all get out.
Okay. The chat has corrected me. There is a Jersey Mike's in St. Cloud. It's only 15. The store's in a strip mall. It's only about 20 feet wide and hidden behind some bushes.
Use your nose.
I will. I know where I'm going for dinner when we're done.
Cool. Okay, by the way, Kim, tomorrow morning I should be able to send you a redo with taking off the next year's thing for the financial blurb splash.
Okay, sure.
Where they said we probably don't want to have next year's, so we'll just concentrate on fiscal year 10/1/2020 to 9/30/2021. So I'll just take off that half and redo it so it's nice and pretty in orange and blue.
Okay, that makes life a lot easier. Also, make sure you change the year on the blue side.
What? Don't I have it as 2020, 2021?
No, you have it 2020 to 2020.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey, does any? I have the. If you got my email, I have the Anime Detour signature. Whatever you call that, the JPEG or the image. Does anybody have an Anime Twin Cities image they can email me? Can you email me that for night?
Yep, I will get that to you when we're done here.
Thanks.
Yeah. So it looks like we're not really getting much more in the chat here. We'll give it another minute or so. Nobody's got any other questions, and the board doesn't have any other questions. We can probably wrap up tonight and continue on with the rest of the world.
Now, who's in charge of sending out the ballots?
I believe that's the secretary.
I think Christina sends out.
Yes.
And
Christina will be sending out the ballots to all voting members who have paid their dues
Tomorrow.
at 1 p.m.
And I've been notifying her every time somebody makes a purchase, so, or makes a membership buy. So hopefully.
All right then. It's looking like we are not getting anything else here in the chat tonight. So I think we can go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone here in the meeting and everyone in the YouTube chat that has joined us tonight. It's very appreciated to see everybody coming out, especially since this has taken 3 days to get everybody done. Do not forget that the voting starts 1 p.m. tomorrow. You should keep an eye on your emails for that. If you have not purchased your ATC membership, you will need to do so before you will be eligible to vote. That can be done through the Anime Twin Cities website. There is under one of the tabs, there's a section that is called for purchasing the membership. It's only $15. Takes about 5 minutes or less. Thank you all very much, and you all have a great night.